Greetings and salutations, and this is Tech Plays here with the finale of Sonic and Shadow Generations, and we are starting this video off strong by playing a challenge involving the best Sonic character. I have been very vocal about that on this channel over the years, like that Blaze is my favorite Sonic character. After her, it's like a tie between Vector and Espio. I kind of go back and forth. After them two, it's probably Shadow, and then so on. So yeah, but Blaze is my favorite Sonic character of all time. It does have a lot to do with the fact that Rush Adventure is my favorite Sonic game, and I actually really love her character. She's probably the best, even though she was sidelined for the 2010s a lot, aside from like Team Sonic Racing. I feel like that works in her favor because she's the only female Sonic character that hasn't been ruined at one point. Well, no, her and Cream. Cream hasn't really been ruined either, but that's also because Cream was also sidelined to hell and back. They gave Rouge and Amy focus here and there, and we saw what happened with them. Like, that's why, like, in an earlier part on this Let's Play, I went on a tangent about, like, are y'all really mad about the way Ian Flynn writes Amy when Pontac and Graf were really disrespectful to her character already? Like, you really want to go back to Pontac and Graf, Amy? Like, okay, I'll give them this. Amy and Boom was good. But, like, the way they handled, like, main series Amy was way more disrespectful than whatever the fuck Ian Flynn haters think Ian Flynn is doing to Amy. And the reason why I say think is because, again, I feel like it's Sega, like, going, okay, you have to write her this way, or, like, you have to write these characters this specific way or something, and Ian just has to fall in line with that, 'cause that's what I think is going on. I don't think it's a case of, like, Ian is purposely, like, making Amy more bland. No. That's been a thing that's been happening since Pontac and Graf took over. Like, literally, Amy had no personality in Forces. She had no personality in Lost World. You really want that back. At least there's a personality with Ian Flynn, Amy. At least Ian Flynn gives her some kind of personality. Yes, it's more bland than she used to be still. And yes, there are parts of her personality being stripped away, but you really want Lost World and Forces Amy back where she had no personality at all? You really want that back? Like, I'm sorry, but like, some Amy fans really, like, some Amy stands just really have some fucked logic. Like, how the fuck do you prefer the most bland take on Amy ever to Ian Flynn Amy? And yeah, I'll admit, Ian Flynn's Amy's really bland. I'll admit that, but it's a step up from how bland she was in Forces. Now, you might be going, but what about Amy and Team Sonic Racing? I am still in denial that that was written by Pontac and Graf, because none of those characters felt like their take on the characters. They all felt way too well written in that game. So, like, yeah, I'm still in denial that they wrote the dialogue for for Team Sonic Racing. Still in huge denial on that, and I will stay in denial on that until I die, because they did not write the story and dialogue for Team Sonic Racing. They didn't. I refuse to believe that. So no, that doesn't count. Team Sonic Racing Amy does not count. Because they didn't write that. I refuse to believe it. Oh, we already failed. That's nice. But yeah, like, that's where, like, I'm confused. Like, y'all weren't complaining when Pontac and Graf were literally making her a walking break of a character. Like, she had no personality. You weren't complaining when Pontac and Graf were doing that, but when a way better writer comes in and does that, but does it a little less, yeah, that's when you decide to bitch him. Y'all just hate Ian, just admit it. Like, I'm sorry, but this is actually one of the reasons I'm glad, like, I got rid of Twitter, because I was exposed to so much, like, Ian Flynn shit talking, specifically over how Amy is written, and the only reason I still hear about it is because people make YouTube videos on it. Like, I'm not on Twitter, no. I'm on Blue Sky, and I barely use Blue Sky as it is. No. I just watch videos of people talking about it because it gets recommended to me. That's it. So, yeah, like, y'all just hate Ian, just admit it. Because, like, Pontek and Graf did the same thing to Amy in the last 2 mainline games they wrote Amy in. And y'all weren't complaining then, but the moment that Ian Flynn comes in, just admit y'all hate Ian. Because Ian at least gives her some personality. I can actually name, like, a few traits she has when written by Ian. She has a bit of the passion that she's always had when written by Ian that's really shown in Frontiers. I don't know how people look that over. Like, they just go straight to Generations, the Generations rewrite, and they're like, oh, he took all of Amy's personality out. No. Y'all need to look at Frontiers. Frontiers, Amy was the most personality she had since the OG Generations. Yeah, it's still not as much as the personality she used to have, but it's there. Like, in Frontiers, you see, like, Amy's passion. You see that she has a kind heart and stuff. You see that, like, she cares a lot about other people. You see that, there's a little stubbornness there. Like, I saw a little stubbornness in her, like, Frontiers portrayal, which is not something I saw in, like, written in Amy's character since Unleashed. Literally, before, like, the last time I saw Amy written as being stubborn was before Pontek and Graf took over. And Amy had, like, a couple stubborn moments in Frontiers. So, yeah. Like, don't say Ian doesn't know how to write Amy, or Ian, like, hates Amy or something like that. Like, just because of the Generations rewrite, literally all that happened with the Generations rewrite is that her, like, feelings for Sonic were, like, dialed back. And that was more than just effort from Ian Flynn. She was entirely reanimated in the intro cutscene, so I don't think that was Ian's call there. I think that was Sega's call, and he just, like, obliged to it because he works for them. He gets paid by... I feel like that's something people don't understand. Like, when you go and harass or shit talk writers, voice actors, etc., etc., it's not always their fault. Why do you think, like, whenever, like, I say I don't care for, like, a Sonic voice actor, I'm usually blaming the voice direction? Because I've heard almost every Sonic voice actor in something else. Every modern Sonic voice actor from 2010 onwards, with the exception of, like, the Sonic Prime voice actors, because I have not heard them and other stuff, but you know what I mean, like, the main series voice actors since 2010. That includes both versions of Knuckles' voices, both versions of both Blaze and Silver voices. I've heard all those voice actors in something else, and they were incredible. And on top of that, I know that it's not always the writers or the voice actors' fault. A lot of times, it's the ones who hire them. Like, y'all want somebody to be mad at Sega, because I honestly think Sega is the reason that the Generations rewrite for Amy was so quote-unquote bland or mistreated to Amy fans, because, like, I literally don't think it's Ian's call there, because it's inconsistent with the way he writes her in IDW and in both IDW and Frontiers. If you go look at Amy in IDW and Frontiers, she has a ton of personality in both of those. But then Ian writes her one way for Generations, most likely because Sega wanted her written that way, which is evident, which in my opinion has evidence to back it up, because literally there was an entire, like, portion of the introduction cutscene reanimated so that she wasn't bugging Sonic anymore, just to fit that. So I don't think it was Ian's call. I really think that was all Sega. But no, y'all want to believe. See, this is why I seriously just think that that most Amy fans just hate Ian, because he has written Amy good in the past. Look at IDW. Look, IDW is like a perfect example. I think that's like the best Amy has ever been written. Look at Frontiers. Didn't he also write for the Archie comics at one point? I don't know how Archie Amy was portrayed. I never read the Archie comics. The only reason I know about how she's written in the IDW comics is because I watch YouTube comic dubs of it. And I think it's really good. I actually love IDW Amy. It's the only, like, IDW and Boom Amy are the only versions of Amy I've ever loved, because I think they're the best handled. Like, Boom Amy is the best Pontac and Graf ever wrote Amy, and then IDW Amy is the best that Ian ever wrote her. So before you go, oh, Ian just hates Amy, or all this stuff that, like, Amy fans like to say just because of the way she was written in the Sonic Generations rewrite. Y'all, like, are stretching just so y'all can hate on him, man. Especially when, like, it's beyond just his writing. It was also reanimated, which tells me it was probably Sega's call. So really, y'all are like, I just hate it when people attack like the people lower down, when like they're working for a company. They're working for a fucking company that pays them. Y'all don't want to blame the company? No, y'all want to blame the individual who is just doing what they're told. And it's evident they're doing what they're told, because he's written Amy differently in the past. When the IDW comics that he wrote Amy in, Frontiers, both of them are good examples of how he writes Amy. Don't look at Sonic Generations rewrite and just go, oh no, he's a terrible writer. He hates Amy. He writes her so bland. All this stuff. He's so disrespectful to her character. All these, like, no. Actually fucking look at other stuff he wrote. Like, I think Amy is fantastic in Frontiers. It's not the best she's ever been, no. I think that would be IDW. Like, IDW Amy is awesome. And I'm not even an Amy fan. I'm saying this as someone who, like, used to hate Amy and is just sort of okay with her nowadays. Like, so I have no bias to, like, praise her or anything. Or praise the read. I'm also not, like, I am a bit of an Ian Flynn fan, but that's just because, like, literally just because when you compare the way he writes all the Sonic characters, including Amy, to the way Pontac and Graf wrote them for most of their run as the series writers, it's like comparing a frozen pizza to a Marco's pizza. Actually, no, better. It's like comparing a frozen pizza to a New York style pizza served by like what are those places called? Not chain restaurants, by like a local. Okay, it's like comparing a frozen pizza to a New York style pizza. No, it's like comparing a frozen pizza to a Chicago deep dish pizza. No, not Chicago. It's like comparing a frozen pizza to a Detroit deep dish pizza sold by a local restaurant. That's like what it's comparing. Ian's writing is the local restaurant deep dish pizza. Pontac and Graf are the frozen pizza, the $3 frozen pizza. That's what it's like comparing. So that's why it annoys me, because it's not even like about like being an Ian Flynn fan. Yes, I'm a fan of him, but I'm not like a diehard fan or anything. I'm like a casual fan of his. I have no reason to defend him this much. No. The reason I'm so like passionate about like my opinion on this and why I think it's so dumb so many people hate Ian for some reason is because Y'all literally just got 10 years of garbage. And then someone steps in that's better than the garbage you got for 10 years. And your first thought is, I hate this man, I hate everything he writes, I hate all of this. Literally, we finally get good writing and y'all hate it. Like, that's what bugs me. You finally get something good and your first instinct is to bitch and moan about it. This is why I'm not very active in the Sonic community. Like, the most I do with the Sonic community is occasionally talk about Sonic games on, like, Blue Sky or something. And to friends. Friends that are not in the Sonic community, I might add. Look at Sonic fan art and record Sonic games and voice my opinions in those videos. That's the most I do. I don't talk directly to Sonic fans most of the time because y'all are insufferable. Literally, like, I just explained one example of how insufferable y'all are. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm really sorry, but, like, I hate, like, I can't be involved in the Sonic community that well because there are a lot of, like, good Sonic fans that, like, make amazing fan art and, like, are super chill people. And I would say the majority of the fan base is like that. It's only a minority that, like, bitches and moans about everything. But the minority is so bad that I'm scared to talk to most Sonic fans that I haven't talked to before. And I'm a Sonic fan myself. That's like coming from a Sonic fan. Like, I'm scared to talk to most Sonic fans. Y'all are insufferable. And no, that doesn't go for the whole Sonic community. Like, I'm not insulting people who are more chill and stuff. Like, I'm literally just talking about the minority that's, like, super insufferable, super angry, complains and bitches and moans about everything. Like, the fact that y'all complained about Ian Flynn literally shows me that y'all will never be happy and y'all will hate everything that's done with the Sonic series. That's what that shows me, because we finally got a good writer for the series and y'all's first instinct is to find, like, whatever flaws in his writing you can and then bitch and moan about it. Oh, Ian makes too many references. Should probably point out that when he wrote for IDW, there was maybe one reference every few issues. In Frontiers, most of the references made, outside of like 2 or 3, are from optional dialogue that Sonic says walking around the world. It's not even in the main story of the game. Should point out that Generations is a series about, like, celebrating the entire history of Sonic, and that even the original Generations had a few references, it just wasn't in the dialogue. Yeah. Sorry, but your argument falls flat when you complain about him making references. Because yes, he does. He makes way more references than Pontek and Graf ever did. Because Pontek and Graf weren't familiar with the series. If I remember correctly, they literally admitted that they looked up stuff on Sonic and went off that, which was evident because they didn't know how to write most of the characters. They knew how to write Tails and Dr. Eggman, with the exception of Tails and Forces, but we don't talk about that. They knew how to write, for the most part, they knew how to write Tails, Dr. Eggman, and, like, that was kind of it. Every other character was sidelined too much to really be ruined. Or they were like, made weaker or, like, written real poorly. Like, Pontek and Graf destroyed some characters. Look at the way they, like, look at the way they wrote Sonic, Amy, Knuckles. Look at the way they wrote those 3. And Silver. They even managed to ruin Silver, and he was sidelined so much. Look at Silver in Forces. Look at Tails in Forces. They did not know how to write those characters, fam. I'm done like bitching and moaning about that. We're entering like the last portion of this Let's Play, and I gotta shut up because cutscene.
I recalibrated everything. This was supposed to be my time.
Oh, please, keep dreaming, Egghead. I beat you every time. No, seriously, we beat him every time. Our scorecard's flawless.
Stopping Eggman is always good, but the root of the problem is that monster. Maybe we can call a truce and... Look, he got your Eggman too. Oh, this is getting serious.
Okay, so I'm doing something right now. Like I'm dealing with some hand pain at the moment, so like I'm putting on like a compression glove. If you don't know, like I have issues with hand pain. I've had it for like the past 2-3 years. And it's gotten a little better. I quit eating beef because of it. Beef would cause my hand to swell up. And I still eat beef here and there, but like for the most part, I don't eat it at all. Like if I have a say so, I'm not eating beef at all. I only eat it at times I have to, you know, like when it's the only option. So like ever since I stopped eating beef regularly, it stopped happening. This is literally the third flare-up I've had since I stopped eating beef, and I stopped eating beef regularly, and I stopped eating beef regularly way back in March of this year, and at the time of doing this commentary, it's December. This video is also going to go up in December, so I don't know why I'm saying at the time of the commentary. So I've literally barely have eaten beef since, like, in 9 months, and I've only had 3 flare-ups. For context on how bad it was back when I ate beef, like, 2 or 3 times a week. Yeah, I used to eat beef that much. For context on how much it used to happen back then, I would get like a hand flare up once or twice a month. Yeah. It was really bad. That's why I quit beef, like almost entirely. And literally, if I had to say so, I'd never eat it. I think I've eaten beef like once or twice a month since then. And it's just times where like, I didn't have a say-so. That's just what we had for dinner or something. I think there's been one time I chose to eat beef. I chose to eat a Wendy's burger. But that was because I hadn't eaten beef in like 3 weeks when I had that. And I just really wanted a Wendy's burger. Because like, there's 2 beef things I miss. And it's Wendy's burgers, specifically Wendy's burgers. I don't know why they hit so much. But Wendy's burgers and spaghetti. Luckily, I did get to have spaghetti, like, a week ago, but that's the only time I've had beef in, like, the last 2 weeks, I want to say, was that spaghetti. So, yeah. Only 2 beef things I ever crave, and every once in a while, if I haven't eaten beef for, like, 3 or 4 weeks in a row, I'll, like, let myself eat something like that, but for the most part, I'm on an anti-beef diet, and I've been that way for 9 months. And the amount of flare-ups I get has, like, dwindled down so low. And the only time they happen now... I shouldn't be talking over this cutscene, but fuck it. The only time they happen now is when I overuse my hands. Like, when I game too much, or I write too much, or I do stuff too much. Whenever I do anything too much with my hands, for, like, days in a row, like, whenever I'm super busy, like, I'm, like, doing a lot of stuff... That's the only thing that causes flare-ups now. I'm thinking of starting to stretch my hands before I game or write or do anything. Just to prevent that. I don't know if it'll work, but I'm thinking about that. But I'll shut up for the rest of this cutscene now.
Primordial essence. I discovered it possessed abilities I have long desired to harness for myself. Namely, that it could travel through the dimension of time, so I decided to utilize its marvelous capabilities and rewrite the past. In order to perfect it, I needed the help of somebody as smart as I am. The only person that smart is me. Oh, you are too kind, my dear future self, and I was happy to help. And now all of time is ours, to do with as we please.
But the more your monster tears through the timeline, the more damage you do to it.
So, I'm going to erase that line and reshape it as I see fit. And they call me eccentric. No one will judge us anymore after we've destroyed these Sonics forever. Shall we begin then, Doctor? By all means, my dear Doctor.
Destroy me? In your dreams, Eggman. I beat you all the time by myself, and now there's two of me.
Then I'll have twice as much fun defeating you.
Keep moving!
Move all you want. I'm still going to squash you into a blue jelly. That was just to soften you up. Now it's time to meet your doom.
You're tougher than that. Come on!
Not you.
On your feet.
You're not beat yet.
Who are they? They are insignificant. You face worse, Sonic.
Focus your spirit.
We're right behind you. I believe in you, Mr. Sonic.
Embrace the emeralds.
Harness their power, Sonic.
You have to win, Sonic, like you've done time and again.
Time to scramble some Eggman, supersonic style!
Ooh boy, here we are. On to a final boss that Sonic fans love to bitch and moan about. I talked about them bitching and moaning about Ian Flynn, now we're on to this. But this is a little different because this is not, like, good like Ian Flynn's writing is. Ian Flynn's a good writer, but this boss is not actually good. I can see why people bitch and moan about this boss. The characters do talk a lot. They do say it's a homing shot a lot, but I honestly don't care. I like hearing the... I might be in the minority here because I actually like that these characters talk in this boss fight. You know why? Because most of these characters haven't spoken in a Sonic game since the original Sonic Generations, with the exceptions... Okay. Okay, let me put it this way. I have not heard these characters speak outside of a spin-off game since the original Sonic Generations. Most of these characters. Okay, well, there's Forces, but they weren't themselves in Forces. Like, all of them feel like entirely different characters in Forces, except for, like, ones that barely get any lines, like Espio. Espio feels like Espio in Forces, but he gets, like, 2 lines. Charmy feels like Charmy in Forces. He gets, like, 2 lines. The only Chaotix member that talks a lot in Forces is Vector. He's the only Chaotix member that gets more than, like, a couple lines. And I get why that is. Vector is the leader of the Chaotix. There's, like, war going on. He would be the one to speak to the Resistance the most. On top of that, he's the most popular Chaotix, if I remember correctly. So, it just makes sense he'd get the most focus out of him, but he still doesn't get that much focus. He just gets more lines. If I remember correctly, he's the character that talks the most after Silver, Amy, Knuckles, and Sonic.
It'll take more than that.
Forces really loved Silver, Amy, and Knuckles. even though it wrote them all terribly. I really feel like those characters suffer the most from Forces. I really do. What I'm glad, like, originally I was upset that Blaze wasn't in Forces, but in retrospect, I'm glad they aren't, because Silver and Knuckles and Vector are supposed to be really strong characters. And they're treated as weak as fuck in Forces. Tails is not supposed to be a very strong character, but he is supposed to be able to do shit on his own, and he's treated as a coward. I fear what they would have done to Blaze, because the only characters they didn't nerf power-wise were Shadow and Sonic. And I kind of hate the narrative that's been going on in the Sonic series. That's been going on in the Sonic series ever since, like, the original Generations. Actually, not the original Generations. I kind of hate the narrative that's been going on in the games. With games like, well, I guess it's not really a narrative that's been going on, but I hate, like, how the Sonic series these days treats it as only Shadow is as powerful, if not more, than Sonic, and no other character can match Sonic, when Blaze literally can. And that's why I'm glad Blaze wasn't in Forces. And I'm glad she wasn't in Forces, because they would have nerfed her so bad to fit that narrative of only Shadow can match up to Sonic. Blaze is supposed to be, I've always seen Blaze as like Sonic's dimensional counterpart. She's supposed to be equally as powerful as him. They literally fought in the original Sonic Rush and were on par with each other's skill. They literally play exactly the same in every game they're both playable. She is on par with Sonic. And if they ever try to nerf her like they did Silver and Knuckles, I'm gonna be so mad. Like, I'm gonna be pissed if they ever nerf her like they did Silver and Knuckles. I'm gonna be really pissed. Because Blaze is my favorite character, and part of that is because she's an alternate dimension Sonic with a different personality, different background, really interesting, like, lore shit. I think she's literally one of the best characters in the series. She's always been well written, even under Pontac and Graf, which is crazy. She's the only female character, if I'm right, and Pontac and Graf did write Team Sonic Racing, she's the only female character Pontac and Graf got to write a lot of dialogue for, even if it was only in Team Sonic Racing, that they didn't ruin. Because they ruined Amy. They didn't really ruin Rouge, but their Rouge was kind of just there.
Don't think about it too hard.
For the most part, literally, like, she was just there. She had no personality. But then again, that's because the game they gave her focus in. The most focus in was Forces. They gave her focus in Team Sonic Racing too, but it was less so than Forces, if I remember correctly. But yeah.
Dude, sweet! And you're only gonna get better!
There's our portal home.
Hey, Sonic! Enjoy your future! It's gonna be great!
Are you sure you saw a door over here? What? You were the one who said you saw a door over here? Well, I know it was one of us. Shut up and keep looking. What time is it? It's the exact same time as when you asked earlier, and it'll be the exact same time when you ask later. There is no time here! Let me just say that this was a brilliant plan that you came up with. Don't get too self-righteous. It'll be your plan pretty soon. I'm gonna dedicate the rest of my life to forgetting it. I heard that! Do we ever win? That depends on your definition of win. Beating Sonic. Oh, well then no. That doesn't give me much hope. Maybe I'll go back and get my teaching degree. That's not a bad idea. I've always enjoyed telling people what to do.
Okay, we're going to be ending off the video right about here, so bye!